excited? Everyone excited to get back to school tomorrow? It's like your top thing in your life. You're ready to go. So I think a bunch of y'all are better about wanting to go back to school. My kids are this. I absolutely hated junior high, high school, skipped class constantly, didn't want to go, didn't want to be there. Had better stuff to do. So I would, conveniently get sick, vanish, just collapse randomly the day before school went back in. That's what it is. So you will need a Bible a little bit this morning. Now, last 2 weeks we talked about a couple of different things and started setting the stage for some stuff. Today we're going to start getting specific, and everyone will need a marker and one of the medium-sized pads today. If you want to go ahead and grab one, it'll be a good time. And I'm going to start by asking a couple of real basic questions, and y'all are going to pretend you're completely awake and answer the questions. So the name I gave for this class years ago was setting goals. And that's kind of what we're talking about, but we're talking about more than that now as a result of what I cover in this class. But the simple question, is it a Christian thing to set goals?
Not typically. I feel like the people that I talk to anyway, they're like, let God do it or whatever. But
Okay, that's one definite answer. We have a very good friend who, intentionally doesn't set any goals at all. Actively avoids having long-term goals. What are some other thoughts? Does everybody feel like at least one of the messages you feel from the church is just let go and let God? Is that phrase foremost in your brain? Okay. What else? Other people have thoughts about that. Did anybody in the Old Testament set a goal and God blessed their work? Okay. So we wrestle with this today. I'm going to go ahead and put something out there that you guys are going to have to wrestle with on an individual basis. I think the church sometimes sends some really funny mixed messages, and you have a hard time articulating what you're going to do next because those messages were a little unclear. Okay? Let me ask a different question. Does the church tend to have you received as a clear message from the church and people of faith that you should work hard as a Christian? Yeah. So you at least got that one. Hey, I should work hard. But having a goal maybe doesn't sound right. Something I'm going to contend is that idea that you have to not have a direction. So let's think about another word. What is a goal? Let's do that. Let's ask that question next. What is a goal?
Something you want to achieve.
Something you want to achieve. That's right. It's in a certain direction. Somewhere you want to be. Something you want to finish. Okay. Is it possible to work hard in a rational way without having a goal?
Spinning your wheels.
Okay, so if you're doing it individually, you're spinning your wheels. And if you're not doing it individually, what are you doing? You're probably accomplishing somebody else's goal. Okay? Now let's think about a few things that Jesus said, things that you know that Jesus said. Finish this sentence. A wise man builds his house on the... A foolish man builds his house on the... And how do they know which is which? What's implied by Jesus there?
The wise man bothered to dig.
The wise man bothered to dig. Okay? If you live in the Middle East, what is on the surface of the ground everywhere?
Sand.
That's right. And if you dig just a little bit, in some places you can also find rock, okay? In some places you can't. Jesus talks about choosing to follow him. Saying, hey, somebody who chooses to follow me but does not first count the cost would be like a man who chooses to build a tower and does not count the cost. And he finds himself partway through building it, and what happens? Come on in. So Jesus says he's unable to finish, and he becomes a mockery in the town. All because he did not have a plan, right? What's another word for plan? Goal, direction. Okay. Are there world religions today that their primary teaching is have no ambition?
Buddhism.
Buddhism. So the number one tenet of Buddhism is my ambition is to have no ambition. Does that make any sense? Do we think God, the real God, the God who decided before creating the world how he would save it, the God who has a plan, would he create us and then create for us a faith in which we have to have a oxymoron belief like that? Is he going to give us a situation like Buddhism is of I'm going to work really, really, really hard to not have any ambition? That's a silly idea to me. It doesn't make any sense. So we're going to look at a few things in Scripture today and get a little better grasp around it. We didn't have a lot of folks here last week. That's why I wanted to back up and touch on this again. Let us go to James chapter 4. We're going to look at James 4, 13 and following. First, this is what we did last week. We're going to get our arms around a couple of little ideas, okay? And then we are actually going to set some goals and let you guys wrestle with why that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So somebody, James 4:13, start reading. And go.
Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there, and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin.
Okay, so what's going on in these verses? What does this individual say? I'm going to go into a town and what?
Spend a year and make a profit.
Spend a year and make a profit. Okay, so does this person have a plan? Has a plan, right? And he gets in trouble for having a plan. Is that what God says? What does God say?
Basically, that he made his plan without God.
Right. He said, hey, you know what? You shouldn't leave me out of your plans. So God commands, I should be in your plans. If God commands to be in your plan, God's commanding you have a plan. Okay? Think about a lot of the Bible stories you know. God told Abraham, get up and go to a land I will show you. Okay? Hey, see there? Abraham didn't have a plan. He didn't know where he was going. Okay? He had a plan. God blew up his plan for a very specific reason. Once Abraham got on his trip and started doing stuff, did he make decisions after that? Did he make business decisions after that? Did he get to a place where there wasn't enough room to graze all their sheep and he and Lot had to talk and make a decision? What did they decide?
Go opposite direction.
That's right. Hey, Lot's going to go this way, and I'm going to go this way so we have enough room to graze our sheep. He continues to work. He continues to be profitable enough that he has his own standing army. So he gets to the promised land, and a bunch of kings start causing trouble, and he goes and he saves Lot. And he rescues the city of Sodom, which is interesting. Abraham, savior of Sodom, comes back by and is introduced to a king of Salem. Abraham's an important person, okay? Now come forward. Let's think of another character. How about, I don't know, Moses? What did Moses do for the people? Let's think a little bit about some of the stuff that he did. It required him to have a plan all the time. When God says, go back into Pharaoh and tell him let my people go, what does Moses say? Go on, Moses, go back in there and get my people. But God, they're not going to listen to me, right? So what does God give him?
A sign.
How many?
He had the serpent, the leprosy, and the blood.
So he gave him 3 signs to start with. And Moses stands there and negotiates with God and tells God, you cannot send me in there without a plan. God, I know you've got a plan. You're going to have to tell me what your plan is. Okay? So God tells Moses what his plan is. And he goes in. Does Pharaoh give in and let the people go after 3 signs? No. So what does Moses do? Prays and says, what's next? And it's a sign, and it's a sign, and it's a sign. And then he takes the people out by night on Passover, gets them in the wilderness, and every time the people need something, what does Moses do? Prays to God, leads them to water, and then God gets them to Mount Sinai, right? And what does God give them at Mount Sinai? In Exodus chapter 20.
10-step plan to a holy life.
A 10-step plan to a holy life. And then he gives them the rest of the details in what we consider to be the book of Leviticus, basically. He gives them 644 more rules. Okay? Does God give them every single detail they need to live? Does he tell them how to start a fire in Leviticus? Do we believe they started fires? Does God say, you must offer a burnt sacrifice to me? Oh, he does. But he didn't teach them how to start a fire? Okay. One of y'all is going to start a fire. You got to do a burnt sacrifice to God. Okay. God says you must do it. My goal is to be acceptable in this sacrifice, right? So y'all tell me, what's some of the stuff I'm going to have to do if I want to do a sacrifice to God? I'm doing a burnt sacrifice. I need help. I don't know. I'm new to this Jewish religion thing. You have to help me. God said I have to sacrifice, do a burnt sacrifice. How do we do this?
Build an altar.
Out of what?
Stone.
How do you do that?
Find a place with lots of rocks. Stack them up.
Okay, so I found some rocks. I'm starting to stack those up. Boy, this is kind of tiring. I'm not sure I can do all this in one day. Oh, it's turning into a multi-day plan now, right? Okay, now I got my rocks stacked up. Now what? Now what do I do?
Find a forest. Chop down some trees. You gotta burn something.
Okay, all right, so I don't know how to chop down a tree. How do I chop down a tree?
Grind an axe.
An axe? What's an axe? Okay, so did God give them...
Axe.
Yeah. So in life, there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of details that God just leaves up to us. Okay? Did God say, hey, Israelites, no, you are not allowed to invent the internal combustion engine and make a chainsaw. You must chop it down with an axe. You must use a saw. You must wait for wood that naturally falls to the ground. Did he give any of those specifics? So he left all those details entirely up to them, right? Okay. How about the animal itself? I don't have a bull. Where do I get a bull? Do I raise it myself or do I buy it? Okay. The simple choice of deciding, am I going to raise my own bull to sacrifice or am I going to work as a stonemason to buy a bull to sacrifice? We, as Christians, have got to get comfortable that making a simple personal choice for direction in our life, that's the same thing as setting a goal. But inside the church, for some reason, we have made the word goal or direction or ambition or wants or desires sound very selfish. And we don't teach you guys how to do it correctly. And we end up making bad choices because we think goal bad, daily choice to decide, am I a stonemason or am I raising my own bull? Good. Okay. This is still a goal. I have picked a direction for my life. And picking a direction for your life is the same thing as having a goal. Now, first 2 weeks we talked about some stuff. God gave us a few great big things that are not negotiable, right? And when you get your handouts today, I forget who all asked it. I think you asked a question about it. Hey, do all these fall into just a couple of categories? And I think they do. So in the handout I categorize them. So when Jesus is asked, Rabbi, what is the greatest command? What does he say? And you can cheat. Luke 10:27. He says...
Love your neighbor.
Yeah, but first he says, before that,
Oh, God.
love God And the second commandment is like unto it, is just like it. Love your neighbor. That's the two greatest commands. So God doesn't give us any choice on those. Okay? Hebrews 5:9 says that our whole duty as people is to obey God and keep his commandments. Okay? Ecclesiastes 12:13, same thing. Whole duty of man is to obey God. James 1:27 says, go do good stuff. Okay? Take care of widows and orphans. I think that God gives us our ultimate goal in life, and it falls in two categories. Love him and love each other. Okay? And the love each other category falls in two categories. So love God and keep his commandments so that we can get to heaven. It says it over and over again. He says things like that in Joshua 24, Ecclesiastes 8, John chapter 6. Love God, do what God wants so we can go to heaven. Second, love each other. And we show each other that we love each other in two ways. One is tell each other about God so they can go too. And two, take care of the physical needs of other people. Okay? God gives us those. Those are overarching. We're supposed to get there, right? That's a lot like the Old Testament command of, hey, sacrifice a bull. How do I do that? How do I help widows and orphans? Okay? I go through high school. I don't have a plan. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just drifting in the breeze. I'm just going to let go and let God. And I am the second shift fry guy when I'm 47 years old. Okay? Can I help very many widows and orphans on my minimum wage job? Okay. Do we think then that maybe, just maybe, God intends for us to leverage some of what we're good at to do those bigger things? And how many times in the New Testament does it talk about our talents, our gifts, taking care of things, doing stuff? Okay. Jesus tells the parable of the talents itself. So one servant gets 5 talents, one gets 3, and one gets 1. What does the 5-talent servant do?
Invests it.
That's right.
Turns a profit.
He invests it and he turns a profit. And he's condemned for that, right? Because, having ambition is wrong. He's not. He's praised for it. Okay. 3-talent man. What does he do with it? Same thing. He invests it. He turns a profit. He's praised for it. The 1-talent man, what does he do? He lets go and lets God, and what happens to him? Okay. Now, it's important as we do this stuff, you understand, every time Jesus talks about don't worry about tomorrow, it's because you need to trust God. Don't trust yourself. But that doesn't mean don't do anything. Let's look at a few specific verses, and then we're going to do some specific exercise. Okay. Starting over here somewhere, Proverbs 27:17, somewhere over here, Ecclesiastes 9:10, Romans 12:10, Ephesians 6:7, Colossians 3:23, Gracie, Romans 14:22, Ecclesiastes 7:18. I'm going to look at a few things here.
12 what? Proverbs 12 what?
Proverbs 27:17.
So,
Ecclesiastes 9:10, Romans 12:10, Ephesians 6:7, Colossians 3:23, Romans 14:22, Ecclesiastes 7:18. And then somebody else, I didn't do Joe. 1 Peter 4:10. All right, let's read a few of these and see some things that God says. So Proverbs 27:17.
iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another.
You've heard this phrase probably your whole life. This is one of those that is actually in the Bible. This stuff you hear all the time, it's not actually in the Bible. Frequently it's Shakespeare being incorrectly quoted. This one's really in the Bible. Okay. Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. Why would God put that in the Bible?
Because it's important.
Probably because it's important. The Bible's not a very big book. And it's actually in there twice. Okay. What good is a dull knife?
It's more dangerous than a sharp one.
More dangerous than a sharp one, for absolute sure. Does a knife fulfill its purpose when it's dull?
No.
Can a knife fulfill its purpose when it's sharp? What's another word for purpose? Goal. Direction, reason, okay? It's not talking about knives, it's talking about men. people. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Okay? If we are not sharp, we cannot accomplish our purpose. If you go through life uneducated, unable, unemployed, unfed, unreasonable, you can't do that big stuff. Okay? Let's look at another one. Let's go backwards to 1 Peter 4:10.
All right. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace.
Okay. As each has received a gift. Okay. Anybody in here mechanically inclined? You like mechanical stuff, touch mechanical things? No one? Everyone's like 3/4 asleep today. It's the end of spring break. It's terrible. Okay. Anybody in here just completely unable to do anything mechanical whatsoever, and you're like, you're going to hurt yourself. You can't do that thing. All right. Fair. So, if we come out of church a little later and one of the widow ladies has a flat tire, should you run to the front of the line? You probably do a flat tire.
Yeah, I might be able to do that. Slap some duct tape.
That's right. But not all of us have the same base skills. Okay? So some people have natural inclinations. Okay? Anybody in here really like to cook? Make good stuff to eat. Right on. See, there you have a talent. You're not completely useless after all. Anybody in here just no good in the kitchen? You should really stay out of there. There you go. So if somebody needs meals prepared because they're sick, maybe you shouldn't be the one to volunteer. Maybe you should be changing the tire.
No.
And Mr. Wright should be over here making dinner. And that's fine. So one of the things that Peter's talking about there is he said, hey, think about what you actually have to offer and offer that thing. Now, if we take Peter's sentiment and we put it in context of being sharp people, what other conclusion might we draw? If I'm good at something, what should I do? Help those that aren't good at that thing. If I do something more often than I'm already good at, what happens? I get better at it. Now, just because I'm getting way better at something, does that mean I should just sit at home and wait for somebody who has that need to show up at my doorstep? What should I do?
Look for it.
Look for it. And in order to look for something and not be a lunatic, what do you have to have? A plan. I got a plan. Okay. Nebraska is flooding, so the disaster relief team is looking for volunteers to go up there. Okay. Some of y'all went to Houston last year. We didn't set out on that trip just, hey, we're just going to show up and whatever God puts in front of us, we're going to do. We talked to people, we came up with a plan, we made sure we had a mix of skills, we had the right tools with us. We came up with ideas, okay? And this is something that I believe that God not only encourages us to do, He actually commands us to do. Next one, Ecclesiastes 9:10.
Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might. For in the realm of the dead, where you are going, there is neither working nor planning, nor knowledge nor wisdom.
Whoa. The realm of the dead. There's no working or planning or knowledge or wisdom. So does Solomon differentiate between hard work and having a plan? Or being wise? He thinks they're all the same thing. They're in the same category to him. And right now, everything you find to do, you got to do it with all your might, because that's what your duty is. Romans 12:10 and 11.
Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Do not be slothful in zeal. Be fervent in spirit. Serve the Lord.
Okay. Decide. Be passionate about what you choose to do. Okay. Go out and do it. Ephesians 6:7.
Rendering service with a good will as to the Lord and not to man. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. Knowing that whatever good anyone does, this he will receive back from the Lord, whether he is a bondservant or is free.
Okay. Whatever you do as service to others, do it as if you're doing it for God, not for men. Why would Paul say that? What's the situation going on in Rome? He's writing to the church in Ephesus in this case. What are a lot of the people who are going to read this? What is their job? Oh, slaves. So the Roman Empire, 3 out of 4 people are slaves. So do they get to choose what they're going to do in that case? Or what does God, through Paul, tell them to do anyway? Serve as if you're serving God instead of that earthly master. Okay? Have zeal for it. Do your thing. Colossians 3:23.
Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord, and not for men. Knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ.
Right on. So it's the corollary. So Paul wrote the Colossian letter earlier, Ephesians later, but this is the same idea. Romans 14:22.
The faith that you have, keep between yourself and God. Blessed is the one who has no reason to pass judgment on himself for what he approves.
Right on. So the faith that you have it between you and God. Your faith is individualistic. Okay? Sometimes in the church we talk so much about us that we forget that you are supposed to have an individual faith. God gave us a bunch of overarching commands. Obey him, we're all supposed to do. But then when it talks about serving other people, there's two big categories that God divides it into, and then he makes it into littler stuff. Serve other people by being evangelistic, telling them about him. Or serve other people by meeting their physical needs. And then he talks about physical needs a lot of different ways. And we talked about one just a minute ago. If you as a person, you sit there and you say, I cannot imagine ever being in a place where I would teach a Bible class. I cannot get up in front of a group. I cannot do public speaking. I don't have any idea how I would serve God. Okay? God never says that all of you have to choose the exact same path of service. In fact, what he says over and over again, starting with the 1 Peter verse, is you choose your path of service. Pick it and get on it and be passionate about it and do it. So if you say, hey, what I can do is sow, and I don't want to talk to people with my mouth, it makes me nervous. I'm going to meet one friend who talks to people and finds out who needs something sowed. Fantastic. Get really, really good at sowing stuff, make that one friend, and get to service. But by making that choice, you just set a goal. You're going to serve God through that talent, through that skill, okay? So each of you's got to think, hey, what's the stuff that I can do? What can I be passionate about? Where could I fit and really make sense, okay? And we talked about this last week when there wasn't a whole lot of people here. If you decide that your career goal is, you know what, I am not going to trade school, I'm not going to college, I'm not going to do a big job. I'm going to go get the smallest job I can get that will physically put groceries on the table, where I can work as few hours as possible, so I can just hang around at church and be the one that talks to everybody. I just want to be the available social shoulder to cry on. Would that be okay? Absolutely, because that is your choice. But in order to get there, we talked about last week, you could make some wrong choices. You can make choices that look right, that are wrong, okay? So a lot of you are trying to make decisions about where you're going to go to college or trade school or go right into work, okay? Trying to figure out what you're going to do there. If your calling, if what you think God wants to use you for is to be the one who can show up anytime you're needed to go help with a home repair or a mechanical repair or something like that for the widow or the older couple that can't do it anymore, would it be the right choice for you to go pursue that degree at Harvard, go to Harvard Medical School, and be in school for the next 12 to 16 years for medicine? That would be a bad choice for you, okay? That would be an incorrect choice that does not lead to your choice of service, okay? What God tells us over and over again is pick your choice of service. Do it often, get good at it, and make choices along the way that let you do that thing, okay? Next verse, the last one we had, Ecclesiastes 7:18.
It is good that you should take hold of this, and from that withhold not your hand, for the one who fears God shall come out from both of them.
Okay, so same thing. Go take hold of what you're going to do. And y'all will all get a handout. We have to make more copies with some verses on it for today. But with the 10 minutes we have left, everybody get a marker and one of the medium-sized notepads. And as you get that out again, because a couple of y'all are going to have to read this. And this is what we'll start with next week. I spent a little more time on the setup than I planned on today. So, think about where you're supposed to be on service. Think about where your long-term goals are. Okay? Think about, and we did an exercise in the first 2 weeks of write a paragraph. Those of you who are not doing a journal yet, do. I've got a couple more cheapo blank ones here you can take. Write a paragraph this next week on what your life would look like 20 years from now if everything goes right. And then write a paragraph on what your life would look like 20 years from now if everything goes wrong. Okay? And understand what those two things are and put it in the context of this. Okay? I wish somebody had been clearer with me when I was your age that God had different paths we can be on. And some of those things that you've got in your head for 20 years from now, you'll be in good shape, helps you get there. So like, for example, I've always been good at dropping what I'm doing when helping somebody. I'm wired up that way. I'm a service-oriented person. I want to go do stuff for people. That's part of what I like to do. I'm not so good on the obedience thing. That's the place where I really struggle, all right? So since God doesn't give us any choice on that, I had to accomplish something else. I had to find a godly wife, who's sitting right here, okay? Until I found the right person to be in my life, I couldn't get on the right path there, okay? Paul even says, hey, I wish that all of you could choose the choice that I've made. He chose to remain unmarried. Fantastic. Could you possibly get more done in what you want to do for God if you stayed unmarried? Maybe. And for some of you, if you say to yourself, you know what, but if I remain unmarried, here's all the other really bad choices I'm going to make. They're going to prevent me from getting there. Okay? That would be me. I would make really bad choices if I didn't have a wife who helps me think through and make better choices. So something I want you to do on your first Post-it note, write down a thing, a place, a goal, something you want to be or do or accomplish in the next 20 years that helps you be on your path of service, whatever that is. Okay? Some of you said before what you want to do for a career. That's fine. That can be your path of service. Mine is. Okay? You can talk about a skill you want to develop. So just pick something that's important to you want to get to in the next 20 years. So when you set a goal, the first thing you're doing is you're picking a direction. Okay? Pick a thing, a career, a major, a skill, an accomplishment. It could be anything. If you say 20 years from now, if you're not married, that's a disaster, get married on it. That's fine. We're going to do a little exercise here. All right, you're all going to be up and down some. On any piece of wall, stick your thingy up on the wall. Second Post-it note. Is this really your goal, or are you doing it for somebody else? If you're doing it for God, that's the only other person you can be doing it for. Okay? If you are trying to accomplish that because somebody else in your life really, really wants you to, and you're not, and you don't personally own it, throw the first one away and start over. Pick a you thing. Okay? All right, y'all stick your first one up on the wall, just where you are. Don't all go to the same side. Just right behind you there somewhere. Where do you want to go in life? Stick it up there on the wall. And I don't care that much what it says, but there's a psychological construct that says that when you look at your own thing, it changes the way you think. There you go. Be up and down a little bit. All right, anybody willing to share yours? Okay, and over the course of this quarter, we're going to pick on them some. So you've got to be as specific as you can. Okay? Why would God want that goal for you? So with what you know of the Bible, and you know enough of the Bible to know, you know the Bible stories, why would God want you to do that? If you can't answer that, it's not a goal yet. Okay? Every once in a while you hear, have SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So saying, wow, I really wish I had a really cool sports car. That's not a goal, it's a wish. The goal would be, I want a 1976 Porsche 911 red by October 1st. That's a goal. Well, maybe not so realistic, those are really hard to find. Okay? That's more of a goal, more specific. Okay? Next. On your next piece of paper, define the playing field. What are your strengths that might help get you there? And what are your personal weaknesses that might get in the way? So just write one or two of each. A couple of strengths and a couple of weaknesses. As you're writing that, does anybody know a personal weakness about yourself that you always have to constantly keep in check?
Task management, I can get off track really easy, and I'm not good at continuing a project once I've started it. It takes a lot of effort for me to actually finish something I've started.
Right on. See, it's good to know that. So if you know something like that about yourself, you can put things into your plan to fix that. One of mine is I get tunnel vision on my projects, and I exclude people from helping me. So once somebody irritates me on my project and they're moving too slow, my first inclination is to cut them out. Okay? They were only giving me 70% of the input I wanted, so I switched the 70 to a 0. Okay, that's not smart, but it's my natural inclination. So what strengths do you have and weaknesses that would help you or hurt you with that goal? Once you got a couple of those written down, stick it on the wall under your goal. Just a couple. There you go. Go ahead and stick it on the wall. Those of you that are done, stick it on the wall under your goal. You can do it. And those of you that had a little exposure to social psychology, why am I making you write stuff and stick it on a wall?
Just feel like it becomes more real, like you remember it.
That's right, it becomes real. So hearing yourself say something out loud or watching yourself write something down is a very different psychological experience than just saying it inside your head. Okay, now here's a funny question. The goal you picked, is it potentially going to derail another goal you have? For example, if one of my goals is I need to find a Christian wife and I need to get married in the next 3 years, okay? So go ahead and stick it on the wall if you haven't. I can talk while you're moving up and down. I'm wired up that way. It totally works. And I want this Christian wife in the next 3 years, and same thing, I decided to go to Harvard Medical School. What are the odds I have time to locate, court, and marry this Christian wife I'm looking for? It's 0 if you didn't know. If you're going to go to Harvard Medical School, you're not getting married in the next few years. And if you do, it's somebody you met in class or on the job, and the only thing you know about them is how good they are at medical school. That'll be the only facet you know. Okay? So you can make two choices that are fighting with each other. And the only way you figure that out is if you write them all down. Okay? Who else has got a strength or a weakness you can share? Anybody? Anybody want to share yours?
Sometimes I get too negative about things.
Negative, right on. So I have a coworker, we joke that he's the guy that sees a bear behind every tree. No matter how great our plan is, what we're doing, he sees the one thing that's going to go wrong. And you know something that is valuable though, because if I listen to it, a lot of times he has spotted something that could go wrong. I don't look at those. That's not something that's part of my wiring. My wiring is all the stuff that can go right. Let's go. Yay! Okay. I bite off all kinds of stuff because it's going to be great. This is going to be awesome! I didn't predict any of this was going to go wrong. Okay? So I had to make myself do that. So think about your priorities. Only one thing can be really number one in your life, and that's God. And God tells us to obey Him as number one. God tells us to tell the people about Him and help them as number two. Number three in your life is going to be something else. Okay? Have that Christian marriage. Choose not to get married. Choose to have kids. Choose not to have kids. Choose to go to college. Choose to go to trade school. Choose to have a certain career. Those are the giant things that come up way at the top. Below that is other things. Now think of something else. What is a skill you're currently missing to be good at that goal you set out there? Is there any one skill you're not good at yet that would be really helpful to get to that goal? So you did some strengths and weaknesses. Look particularly at your weaknesses list. That might give you a clue. But there may be a skill. Like, anybody want to be a computer programmer down the road? IT? No, of course not, because it's a really boring, nerdy job. I've got a degree in that. If I said, hey, I want to be a computer programmer, oh, but I can't type. Is that going to be a setback? Is it a complete showstopper? No, it's not. But would it be wise, going back to the Ecclesiastes verse, would it be wise of me to add to my skills the ability to type if I want to be a programmer? Probably. All right, y'all got to write one skill and put it under your thing before you go. And then get your hand out. So in the back, it talks about how to set a goal.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I do. I don't do like one race, for instance. That's what yeah, but you never know.
Right on. So after you've put a skill up there on the wall, you can get your hand out and go. I appreciate your attention. We're going to keep wrestling with this all quarter. And next week we're actually going to start with the posted exercise. Quickly one more time. Oh, and boys, go next door. Song and scripture assignments. Yeah.
Still going?
No, we're done.
We were talking in our class down there, we're covering Exodus and that kind of thing. And I was curious, something that we don't ever talk about, it's just an off-the-cuff reference to the Hebrews, the Israelites being in slavery for
Right.
400 years. The Bible actually references 430, but there's never any real discussion about the transition from
Guest to slave.
right.
Well, and it's my opinion, the true slave phase is only like the last 140 years or so.
Okay, because that's what I was thinking about in the United States. Obviously, we have the Civil War, and we have slavery that continues. It's not really slavery, and so it's reasonable, I think, to extrapolate that to coming into slavery as well. That same kind of transition.
If we understand who the Pharaoh of the Exodus is, there was a change in Pharaohic bloodline 140 years before that. Which might be the event, but it's one of those that's super fuzzy. I don't know.
So reasonable to say maybe 2 or 3 generations of true slavery.
Right. Where it was deteriorating for some period of time. At first, they were honored guests,
Right.
and it changed.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Wanted to let you know that Ken Richardson had sort of semi-agreed to teach a class down the next quarter or so. That is not going to happen.
Okay.
We talked to the elders the other evening.
Okay.
He's having some troubles and whatever kind of thing.
Understood?
So,
Okay, I'll change it.
okay, I just wanted
Right
to
on.
let you know about that ahead of time or whatever.
Yeah, he's not until September, so I've got time to change it around.
Right, so,
I gotta get the summer pinned down. I got a whole bunch of maybes. It's always cool when you ask people, and they're like, maybe, ask me again.
whether they might get convicted or not.
Yeah, can I get a yes out of anybody? You're really helpful.
How are you? Good.
Oh, cool.
He's wanting to sing. Go on now. Go on
Yeah,
now.
right?
What's his favorite?
So who's our sonographer? It is pretty. Well, I'm gonna mark a few of these. I'm taking some of them down so I can keep them organized this time. Who's our physical therapist? Wow. Well, if she's wired up like her mom, she'll be able to do it. That's tough.
I asked you to do something. I said, come here. That's the news of my name.
Yeah, who? That's not his purpose.
That was the previous week.
Oh. Oh, yeah, so this is this piece. Alright, I gotta get up here this week and put some paper on the wall. Because we're gonna actually build our first pyramid next week. Who wants to get married to somebody better than me?